Hello everyone, so today we're going to be doing another weekly reading vlog where I talk about some newly released manga or volumes of series I have been enjoying or not enjoying, and I let you know what I think of them. This time I have a couple more volumes to choose from for this video, so hopefully I enjoy these more than I did last time. But number one priority, it's Dracula. I've been on a huge vampire kick lately. I don't know why, but I have. And so this will definitely fit that. I really loved the first volume, so I don't think there's any way I won't enjoy this one as well. So this will probably be the first thing I read for this video. Next is one, I'm not sure why I haven't read this one yet. It came out in December and I was supposed to read it to complete the series, but that is Cat-Eyed Boy, Volume 2, the final volume. I did really enjoy the first volume of this. I liked it more than Orochi in the Drifting Classroom, so I'm pretty sure I will enjoy this one just as much. And of course, I really like this cover, this release by Viz. It's very nice and bright and obnoxious. So this is one I definitely need to read in this video as well. Next, I have Welcome Back Alice, Volume 6. I feel like I haven't read any Shuzo Oshimi in a while, so I need to get back into that. And then kind of a repeat from last time, I have The Darwin Incident, Volume 4. I don't even know if I'm going to talk about this in this video. If I end up dropping it, I'll let you know. If I still have mixed feelings, I probably won't talk about it because it would just be repeating myself. But honestly, I kind of hope that this volume is just terrible and I just end up dropping it because I have wasted a lot of time with this series, but then it just adds like one thing that hooks me and I need to just give up. That's kind of my new goal, is to go ahead and give up on things that I'm not loving. And this is definitely one I'm not loving, but for some reason I'm stuck reading it. Then I just have some other like slice of lifey things. I have Yokohama Kairaishi Kiko, which was mentioned in my last vlog, but I never ended up reading it. And then lastly, on the list of things I have to read, I have A Man and His Cat, Volume 10. Honestly, I kind of feel like this series has been going on for too long, but it's okay, it's cute. I'll keep reading it until I'm not enjoying it anymore. So yeah, that's everything I'm going to start with, and I will come back with an update once I've read some things and I'm ready to share my thoughts. Okay, so I have my first update, and I kind of just read a bunch of the shorter volumes I had all at the same time. So I have these 4 volumes to talk about. This one's upside down, but whatever. Starting, of course, with Dracula. So this volume definitely strays a bit more from the original Dracula storyline, which again, I'm not really complaining about, but it is a thing. We do though get introduced to Van Helsing, who is very eccentric in here. I mean, he's pretty eccentric in the original novel as well, but he's an interesting character for sure so far. We still don't get anything about Jonathan Harker, so I'm not sure if we're just going to completely skip that part of the story or if Sakamoto is going to go ahead and tackle that some different way. But this volume was another very fun one. Lots more vampire things. We actually see Dracula, his regular vampire form, or at least that's what I assume it to look like. He really does look like Michael Jackson though. I mean, you can kind of see on the cover, but I read the reviews on Goodreads and pretty much all of them are like, why does Dracula look like Michael Jackson? But I would say this volume was kind of dreamy and whimsical. There's some sequences where you're not sure if it's a dream or reality, and even the characters don't really know. And so that's really fun. Lots of people like falling in love with vampires or being infatuated with the vampires. Whether that's because they're vampires or what, we're not really sure yet. I think it's because they're vampires. But of course, I'm very excited for the next volume. We get a little bit of a twist towards the end of this volume that seems to be adding another layer to the story. It really is, like I said, straying farther and farther away from the original Dracula storyline, but I'm not mad at that at all. I'm just having a great time, really admiring Shinichi Sakamoto's art and the cool vampire powers and the way that he reflects those in the art. It's all very fun. So having a great time with this. So of course I had to ruin that and read The Darwin Incident Volume 4. I'm just gonna go over this very quickly since I talked about this last time. This volume wasn't as bad as Volume 3, but the dialogue continues to be incredibly cringy and just really awful to read. I wouldn't even care if it was just the teenagers that sound cringy, but it is every single character that sounds incredibly cringy. I don't, at this point, really get what's going on with Charlie. Like, he seems to have regular human emotions for some things, but that sometimes he seems like he doesn't have those emotions and he doesn't understand them, which I mean, okay. And once again, there is a huge twist at the end of this volume. This one I thought was kind of stupid and I don't like the direction it's going. So I decided to take that opportunity to finally decide to drop this. I should have just dropped this after volume 2 when I hated the ending of that volume, but yeah. So yeah, I don't know. The twist at the end, I'm sure some people would find interesting, and it is, like, it comes out of nowhere, really. It is shocking, but I don't think it's shocking in a good way at all. So I'm done with this series. I wasted a lot of money on this. I mean, relatively. But yeah, I would not recommend this series. Just some terrible characters, terrible dialogue. The actual plot is not enough to uphold the series when you're considering all those other elements. So finally done with this. I said I wasn't going to talk about that very much, and then I kept talking about it. Next I read Welcome Back Alice, Volume 6. Not much to say about this. I'm still enjoying this series for what it is. This one does, of course, tackle a few of the other themes that Shuzo Oshimi always likes to tackle, but this one has a lot more focus on gender identity and sexuality. Especially in this volume, we're really diving into those themes. And I know that people really don't like the series, or at least in relation to his other works, which I totally understand. This one really isn't as creepy or as darkly psychological as those ones. It definitely still is psychological, but it doesn't really go quite as dark as the other ones, at least in my opinion, but I am still enjoying the series. The next volume should be the last one, and I'm very interested in seeing how this all wraps up. And of course, once again, I almost forgot to mention the author's note at the end of this volume. Shuzo Oshimi is getting really crazy with his author's notes. Definitely Blood on the Tracks. This one wasn't as bad. This one was more interesting because it's him talking about his gender identity, I guess, struggle with that, and kind of his experience as a man, I guess, if that makes sense. So I always like to hear what he has to say at the end of these volumes, because it's always a little bit too oversharing, but it's still interesting either way. And then after that, I read something I thought was going to be very wholesome, and it is kind of, but that was A Man and His Cat, Volume 10. This volume was so sad. Really sad. I mean, it got better, it got happy, but it starts out really sad. So I wasn't really expecting that, but it's okay. It's fine. I kind of like it most when it's just the cute cat things, you know? So it's really great that the author continues to add, in between each chapter, there's just a couple, 4 panels of some kind of joke with the cat that feels very relatable as someone who has cats that keep making noise in the background of this video. So I really like those moments. They break up the chapters that are very sad, like in here. But the music manga part is not the most interesting thing to me. It's a lot of people struggling with their relationship with music, which normally I like to read, but this one I just want the cats. And there is, of course, plenty of cat content here. It's not like it's completely turning into a music manga. It's just the parts that are music manga I'm not loving. But this volume was better than the last couple, so I'm still enjoying the series. I'm still having a good time. I have no idea how long the series is going to go for, but I will keep reading it until I'm no longer enjoying it. So yeah, that's my update at the moment. I am currently reading Cat-Eyed Boy Volume 2. I actually went back and read the last chapter in Volume 1, which is pretty significant since that chapter is 200 pages about. So I went back and read that just because the first chapter in Omnibus 2 of Cat-Eyed Boy continues on from that one. But once I finish that volume and maybe one more, I will give you another update. Okay, so I'm back with another update. At this point, I have finished the second volume of Cat-Eyed Boy. I don't think this one was as good as the first one. There are some really creepy, grotesque moments in here, which I appreciated, but that was mostly just in 1 or 2 stories. I do think, even though this has a similar storytelling style to Orochi, that this one was a lot more interesting. Just the fact that the Cat-Eyed Boy is a lot more of an interesting character than Orochi is, in my opinion. He's kind of a little gremlin. He likes to cause trouble, but he does also try to help people as much as he can. And I really appreciate how much he loves cats. He's always trying to protect his cat friends, and I really love that. But overall, I would say this is one of the better Kazuo Ume's works that I've read, at least. And I do really like reading these older horror manga to see where our newer manga has come from, where it gets influences from, stuff like that. So anytime I see a classic horror manga is being sold, I will pick it up and read it because of those things I mentioned. So yeah, not my new favorite horror manga or anything, but I did have a fun time with it. So that's really all that matters. And after that, I read the newest volume of Yokohama Kaidashi Kiko. So I think at this point, I need to stop picking up Slice of Life series. There are some I've enjoyed, like Yotsuba and What Did You Eat Yesterday? But stuff like this where it's really heavily slice of life, there are some parts where the main character is just sitting and looking at the landscape and not doing much. These really are not my favorite thing to read. I mean, this series is nice enough while I'm reading it, but when I'm not reading it, I don't think about the series ever. Even the fact that it's about robots cannot save it for me. I'm making it sound like this is terrible. It's not terrible. It's perfectly nice. But at this point, I want something a lot better than perfectly nice. Unfortunately, this was probably my least favorite volume so far. Again, it's not a terrible manga. I sound like a Grinch. I feel like every single time I talk about slice of life manga, I feel like some kind of Grinch because I'm always hating on it. That's why I just need to stop reading them because I don't really love them. So I just should stop reading them no matter how hyped they are. But anyway, I believe there is only one more volume of this coming out later this year. So I will go ahead and read that since I'm almost done with the series. But I really can't see this series staying in my collection for very long after that. I just can't see myself ever wanting to reread it, and it just doesn't ever leave a lasting impression on me once I finish a volume. So yeah, those are my thoughts on that. I will stop talking about it now before I piss even more people off. But anyway, I went to the library and I got some more stuff to read. Some regular books with, you know, some vampires because those are necessary right now apparently. But I also got a bunch of volumes of Delicious and Dungeon, volumes 1 through 5. I think my library has all of the ones that are up to date. I started this first volume, I think in 2017 is when I read the first volume, and I really did not like it at all. I thought it was so boring. But recently, as you I'm sure know, the anime has been coming out and people really, really like it. And I heard that it gets kind of darker. And I mean, if it does get darker, then I want to read that part. So I figured it was perfect that my library had a bunch of volumes that I can read. And if I like these, then I can continue to read them from the library or pick them up physically. Although I don't think I'm going to like it enough to pick it up physically. We'll see. This can also be a kind of experiment to see if my taste has changed at all in the past 7 years. Oh god. Actually, I think there might be a video on my channel where I talk about reading the first volume of this. I could be wrong, and please don't go looking for it. Don't watch those videos. But I have been making YouTube videos for a while, so I think there might be one where I talk about the first time I read that. But anyway, I think the next update should be my last one. I'll talk about however many volumes of this I read, as well as maybe a couple more volumes of something else that I can squeeze in here. So yeah, I'll let you know when I have something else to talk about. Okay, so here I am for my last update. At this point, I have read 3 more volumes that I wanted to talk about. The first one being Kissan Yamada Volume 2. I realized that the next volume of this is finally coming out later in April, and I'm really excited for it, and then I remembered that I hadn't actually read this volume yet. This volume came out in February of 2022, so it's been a while since we last got a volume, and somehow I just hadn't read this. I guess I was waiting for a couple volumes to stack up, but I didn't realize it was going to take this long for the series to continue, but that's okay. Anyway, so this is a Yuri manga, if you couldn't tell. It's actually my favorite Yuri manga, and recently I've been trying to figure out what my tastes are because sometimes I feel like I know them very well, and sometimes I cannot figure it out. So I was trying to analyze my favorite, like Yuri, BL, and other romance series because as you know, I don't like very many of them at all, and I was trying to figure out the ones I do really enjoy, what about them makes me like them. And I think I figured it out, maybe. So with series like this, as well as Bloomin' to You and I Hear the Sunspot, the main relationship gets established pretty early on. With Bloomin' to You, it's kind of messy, but it's still, like, the characters have feelings for each other, maybe, and they know that, and they're in some kind of relationship. And the story is kind of different from a regular, like, getting together romance manga because they're already together, so they have different issues that they're dealing with. And I guess I can enjoy those series more than other romance manga is because we don't have as much of the getting together part, which I know lots of romance fans really enjoy, but I don't like that part. And yeah, I've always just found that part very uncomfortable to read, but once the relationship is established, it's fine. So, but this is not like universal because there are some series that get established pretty early on, like My Love Story. The main couple is together very early on, but even then I did not like that series either. So it seems like if the relationship is established, I am more likely to enjoy it, but still, romance is like my least favorite genre, so it's gonna be very difficult for me to enjoy it at all. But anyway, getting back to Kase-san, this series follows these two. They started out in high school and they got together pretty early on, and it's basically just followed them. Now they're in college, so they're dealing with other issues, trying to stay together when they're kind of separate. They go to separate colleges in different towns. And it's, I guess, kind of messy. It looks very fluffy, and it is very fluffy, but there's some jealousy and miscommunication and stuff like that, which I know really bothers people, but I don't know, it adds some kind of interest to me for some reason. It doesn't really bother me. I mean, I Hear the Sunspot is just completely full of miscommunication, and it's probably my favorite BL manga. But yeah, I'm really happy I went back and returned to the series because, like I said, it is my favorite Yuri manga. I really enjoy this series, these characters, so I'm very excited. The next volume is coming out later this month as well. I don't really know if anything that I just said about my tastes in like romance-esque series made any sense just now, but it's just me thinking through my own thoughts. Anyway, next I read Delicious in Dungeon Volume 1 and Volume 2. As I mentioned, Volume 1 was a reread for me. I did go back and look, and I don't actually think that I ended up talking about this in a video, but I did end up reading it in July of 2017. That's when I last read this. And of course, because it has been that long since I tried this out, I don't remember what my exact thoughts were. I know I gave it a 3 stars on Goodreads, but I seem to remember that it was just very boring and I didn't care about any of the characters. That's my guess. But I'm very glad I returned to the series again and gave it a second chance because I ended up enjoying it a lot more this time. The characters are really fun. This whole like cooking situation in the dungeon is interesting. Maybe it's because I've read more cooking manga now than I had the first time I tried this series, that I'm just more familiar with the way the story goes and the way these topics are explored, that I can appreciate it more this time. But it was really fun. I like learning about the monsters and how they work as food as well. And also being able to learn more about these characters because I have seen quite a bit of fan art of these characters. I have some ideas of what they're like, but being able to read the manga made me obviously be able to understand their characters a lot better. But yeah, either way, I'm enjoying the series quite a bit. I have 3 more volumes from the library right now, and I checked and my library does have all 13 volumes that are out at the moment, so I can go ahead and read those, although there are quite a few holds on them because this series is pretty popular at the moment because of the anime, but that's okay. I don't mind waiting. This isn't a series that I really need to binge read. It's just a nice read. Again, I don't think I'm going to enjoy the series enough to purchase it and have it in my own collection, but I am having fun reading it for sure. I'll probably pick up a few more volumes that I can get and read them throughout the week. So yes, here is everything I ended up reading this week. It's 9 volumes. I should have counted the pages to let you know that, but 9 volumes of manga. Some of them are omnibuses. I ended up completing 1 series, continuing some other series, as well as dropping 1 series and giving another one a second chance. So I would say this was pretty successful reading week. I enjoyed most of everything I was expecting to enjoy, so that's great. I also really enjoyed vlogging this because then I was able to get my thoughts across as they were very fresh instead of waiting at the end of the month to share my thoughts. Although on some of these, I probably wouldn't share my thoughts at all because they're like a random volume in the middle of a series. So I just wouldn't clutter my reading wrap up with those thoughts. So these reading vlogs are a great opportunity to be able to share my thoughts about series that I might not talk about as often. But yeah, if you had any thoughts about the manga I had to talk about today, please leave those comments down below. But that's going to be it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!